Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Welcome back to the ANEW Insight Podcast. We are back for the second half of this interview with plant-based facilitator Guy Borgford. Guy gave us some invaluable insight into his inspiration to explore and practice plant-based medicinal healing. We cannot wait to learn more. Thanks for coming back, Guy.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yay. So we spoke a lot, I think, just scratched the surface in terms of how meditation and how exploration with plant-based medicine can help to open and alter your consciousness and help you to tap into the highest part of yourself and the greater consciousness of the universe, essentially. Give us a picture of what you experienced. How has exploring in this realm changed you fundamentally?
Yeah, so starting back when I was a kid, and there was a few times where I had these really big experiences, primarily with mushrooms, and I still remember some of them. But let's fast forward to a few years ago, prior or just after I started meditating, and my first ayahuasca experience. I had already had this Kundalini awakening, but I still hadn't kind of integrated because I didn't know really what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I was still carrying on with my usual shenanigans. And, I mentioned, and I think in our last discussion, I lived a pretty fast-paced life. Mm-hmm. I was hanging out with a younger crowd because I was dating someone quite a bit younger than me. And it was really the order of the day was just partying. And I binge drank, we'd go on vacation and we would just party our faces off. I was using cocaine quite regularly, smoking cigarettes, just on a fast track to an early death, quite honestly. And after my first ayahuasca experience, Mother Ayahuasca is what, we call her in the circles. And she said, no more cocaine and no more cigarettes. You're done. And I never touched it again. And just like that, I'm done. And then through that, I started really kind of digging with the mushroom. And my intention in working with mushrooms was quite often what's next. I was like, I'd throw it out to the mushroom. And when we set intentions, that's kind of what we're kind of looking for to get from the medicine, whether it's guidance or healing or, releasing blockages, whatever it may be. I quite often use this what's next because that in itself is kind of an act of surrender and surrender is what we want to do with some medicine. We always want to just surrender and release control and allow the medicine to show us what we need to learn. Mm-hmm. So this intention of what's next, I was sitting with the mushroom. And in our last discussion, you referenced the physical healing that can happen through these medicines. Mm-hmm. So this is what I'm sharing right now. I had the intention of what's next. And okay, I always start crying when I tell this story.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. Hang on. So my father was killed when I was 12 years old in a helicopter accident. And I was away at hockey school on the mainland. I lived on Vancouver Island, and I was away at hockey school, and I got the message over the phone, and I was by myself. And they rushed me off to the airport. I got on a plane by myself and I flew back to the island. And two of my sister's boyfriends picked me up and they handed me a bottle of whiskey. And they're like, drink some of this. It'll make you feel better. So 40 years later, I take some mushrooms and I say, "What's next, mushrooms?" And the mushroom said, "Remember this? You never felt this. You never really felt this loss."
Wow.
It was intense. It was intense. And it came out like a dam breaking open, like just, and
Oh,
just the wailing and the sobbing and that just, man, it was the saddest thing. And so beautiful. So beautiful. So I had this little asthma condition. And it was getting to the point where I'd go hiking in any kind of little hills or anything. I'd have to stop all the time. And granted, I smoked a lot of cannabis back then and everything. But 2 weeks later or so after this experience, I realized my asthma was gone.
wow.
It was just gone. And I'd like walking up hills, no problem, no short of breath, just like no inhalers. And they say that our breath is connected to our emotional world. And
Mhm.
and this asthma was a blockage because the asthma came up right after my dad's death. Like, I didn't realize it, but when I looked back, I went, "Oh yeah, I remember that's when it came up."
Wow.
I never really expressed that grief. And that's one of the things these medicines are so good at, is expressing
Yes.
grief and allowing stuff to flow. We are that's how we are engineered.
Yes.
Beautiful human suits is like, get it out. You look at
Mhm.
animals, right? When they experience some kind of stress, how they
They shake.
they shake it out. So that was the shakeout. And yeah, I've had lots of those since, and they continue to happen. As I sit with medicines right now, I've been really focused on working with ayahuasca, and the other ones are not so important. But through ayahuasca, I stopped smoking cannabis back in September, and I was a regular user and have been my entire life. But cannabis for me was just an excuse. It was just an excuse to not do what I needed to do. I
Mhm.
live up here in the mountains in beautiful nature, and there's nothing, I mean, in my opinion, nothing better than, have a couple puffs of cannabis and get out in nature, and everything's just so beautiful and lovely. But I used it as an excuse to not do what I needed to do to align with my purpose and why I'm here in this human experience. And
Mhm.
so Mother Ayahuasca again says, "Hey, cannabis, not to say you got to quit it forever, but you got to lay off it. As long as you're working with me, no more." And
Wow.
so, yeah, I haven't touched cannabis since September, which is for me is a big deal.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Can you explain to our listeners who might not have had any experience in this or really don't know and I kind of have had that like dark view of these types of medicines, how they help you? Like, what is the scientific underpinnings of something like ayahuasca? Why is it helpful in terms of facilitating healing, especially mental health healing?
yeah. I think that's a really loaded, complex question. I think it
Yes.
varies for everyone, but some of the kind of core tenets of the container of these medicines include uh, feeling safe. And that's why having a container where you feel safe to be vulnerable, to let go, to relinquish control, and to allow yourself to access these higher realms of understanding. So I think that's one. From a physical perspective, the science is out with entheogens and psychedelics that they create neurogenesis. So, and new neural pathways. They
Wow.
create new neural connections. I always say these medicines are like a hardware upgrade where, from a computer perspective, my background in consulting comes in here. You know, we get a shiny new computer. Yeah, you're going to run Windows 95 on that? No, you're going to get the latest operating system. Windows 95 was bad, by the way.
So bad. That's
Yeah,
why I'm laughing.
yeah, yeah. But you're gonna get new software. And so the software upgrade is the integration work. Is, we get all these new neural pathways, new connectors. We get these insights and these epiphanies about, oh, I need to do this. Oh, this is why I function that way. This is why I have this conflicts in these types of situations. You get all this understanding. The integration is the software upgrade. It's where you actually got to now start operating from that new understanding. And it takes work. That's why everybody says it in this space. It's not a magic pill. It takes work.
Mhm.
But this opens the door. The medicine opens the door and shows you how you can change. You still
Mhm.
got to do the changing. And so
Mhm.
anybody who thinks it's just like, oh, I'm going to sit with mushrooms and all my problems will go away. Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but it can lead to profound healing and profound expansion and understanding.
I think from what I'm gathering, it helps you actually face a lot of things that you may have tried to dissociate from or suppress.
Yes.
I think that that's our culture. I think that we are, buck up camper, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, boys don't cry. We have all sorts of messaging that tells us that we need to suppress our emotions or put them away somewhere or not face them. And in that suppression, that's where we see a lot of mental health difficulties, but also physical health tends to correlate with the suppression of these traumatic incidences. There's a really amazing author called Carolyn, I think you say Mays, it's spelled Myss. She's a medical intuitive. She's like someone that doctors like, and she's completely validated, somebody doctors call upon, and they'll describe the patient. She doesn't even have to have the patient in front of her, and she knows what's wrong with them based off of the description. And
Wow.
she's written a couple books, and she's really amazing. But that's what kind of opened my eyes to the physical presentation of illness, why it might start to form in somebody and not in somebody else. Somebody can be a smoker forever and not develop lung cancer, while others do, and what could be the emotional causes for these disease states as well. And you
Yeah,
can see the correlation, like you said, with you developed asthma right after, your father sadly passed. And that was trapped energy in your body that was never released. You
that's right.
suppressed with alcohol, you kind of tapped out, zoned out, and it stayed in the body. And once you actually faced it, it dissipated, which I just
Yep.
think is like, I just think it's magical. I think it's
Yeah,
amazing. And I think that, if more people were open just to facing what they've gone through, they would be able to release that trapped energy in their body. So tell us, for the people that are, completely gun shy about any kinds of like, psychoactive medication like this, are there ways that they can achieve, say, what you achieved without going into that kind of state?
absolutely. Plant medicine, they're just tools to access these higher states of consciousness. There's a million different ways to get there.
Mhm,
We already talked about meditation. That is
mhm.
my number one
Me too.
go-to recommendation. A mindfulness, conscious awareness, to be present, to be really practice presence and in a day to day. Tune in. What is my body? Why am I getting all upset? What does my body feel like? Gee, I'm feeling anxious. What does that feel like? My chest is tight. My breathing. Pulling out of our head and into our body and listening to our body and understanding what our body is telling us in the present moment.
Mhm,
Things like sensory deprivation. We live in an overstimulated world. To kind of start tuning some of that out, getting
mhm.
off news cycles, getting off social
Yes.
media. Don't play video games. Like, turn down the music. Like, just, like, settle everything down and getting in. Our central nervous systems have been hijacked where everything just keeps getting louder and louder and louder as the competition for our attention becomes more increased. And
Mhm.
it's like, let's just opt out. So
Mhm.
that's a good way. Getting into creative expression, writing, right? Journaling, art, any kind of art. If you say I'm not artistic, like getting into and things like gardening and connecting with nature and plants and getting into nurturing other life forms. There's
Mhm.
all these different ways, but it requires us to go within. You see, every one of them is about going within.
Mhm.
And once we go within, then we can start connecting with the real world. And the real world is about life. The real
Mhm.
world is about love. It's
Mhm.
not about us entertaining our little monkey minds and forgetting about certain things in certain ways. It's about really being present. And, all of these tools, plant medicines aren't for everyone. And but there are these other tools, and they some of them do require sometimes guidance. Like meditation can lead to issues.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of science out there where people have serious issues landing their experiences, like I
Mhm.
had when I had my Kundalini awakening. Like, I was super lucky that I was able to work through that, but I could see where some people could their lives could collapse in that situation. It was really
Absolutely.
challenging. It was as challenging as any psychedelic experience I've had, and I've had a lot of them.
This may be a more philosophical or maybe even systemic question, but why do you think we have evolved to date to really distract ourselves or to be caught in news cycles? Why do you think the majority of people tend to fall into that paradigm?
I mean, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that our attention and our central nervous systems have been hijacked by those who make money off us as consumers. They
Mhm.
refer to people as consumers all the time,
Yes.
markets, what do we have to spend? How can we make someone else money? And so I don't think it's any fault of our own. I think that this has been, part of the plan ever since the invention of television. It's been a
Mhm.
long, very intentional course of seizing control of our consciousness. And I think
Mhm.
that's a big reason why plant medicines are still illegal and Schedule One substances in the United States is because they know that help people wake up. And
Mhm.
you talk to a lot of people who are in the plant medicine space. Most of them don't have televisions. Most of them don't watch the news. Most of them eat all organic, healthy food. They don't eat junk food. There's all these commonalities where it's like, oh, gee, wow, all
Mhm.
these things. I just turned 60 last year. I have never felt better. I have never felt more energized, aside from a little bit of arthritis in my hands, which has
Mhm.
cleared up. My arthritis is so much better. I had a little addiction to Jif peanut butter, and I was like, yeah, cut that out. I switched to healthy peanut butter, and everything's just gone away.
It's amazing, and I do agree with you. I think that, a lot of my work is helping people return to their healthiest state in their body, especially if they're struggling with weight or shape issues. And my the book that I wrote is called Deprogram Diet Culture, because diet culture in and of itself is a system designed to take your money, promise you a fast and easy result that never really works, and then you just rinse and repeat and just stay
Mm,
trapped in this cycle. And so I always couch it as, we are kind of hypnotized by the outside world telling us how we should look, what we should, dress like, who we should follow on social media, what size we should be, how much money we need to make. And all of this is designed to make us feel like we're not good enough. And
totally.
that is the primary driver behind advertising. I
Oh,
don't have that, so if I go buy that, maybe I can get that. And I think it is absolutely imperative that people start to delve within and start to listen to themselves. That's, you're talking about that in the last part of this podcast, is that, yeah, I want people to become their best experts so that they don't need me anymore.
Yep.
That they are listening to themselves and themselves only, because when you really truly tap in to that small, still inner voice, you cannot go wrong. Like in mindfulness, when you actually do pay attention, and I think a lot of people, they don't really fully understand mindfulness. It's a term like it's tossed around like salad all over the place. But what is it really? It is an open-hearted, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment.
Mm.
And having that awareness is everything, because you are absolutely right. Your body, less so than your mind. Sometimes your mind can play tricks on you, but your body tends to tell you everything that you need in the moment. It tells you when you're hungry. And diet culture is, primed to tell you don't listen to that, ignore it. That
Mhm.
is a primary need of your body that you're ignoring. And when you do this, you off a cascade of negative events that will try to get you back to listening to your body. Your thermogenesis slows down, your ghrelin, your hunger hormone goes up. Your body is like, no, please listen. And I
Mm.
think it is so vital that we actually listen to our body and to the signals coming from our body. So
Yeah.
you have provided so many different ways that people can access and listen to their body: gardening, mindfulness, meditation, using plant-based medicine, going out into nature, and
Mhm.
just tapping into your creativity. And tell me, for you, when you are helping and leading people, whether it's through plant-based medicine or through meditation, where are you guiding them toward? What are
Mm.
you facilitating exactly?
That's such a good question. Such a good question. I would say it is leading them towards that which they already know but have forgotten.
Mm.
And it's through their own path of direct experience that we get to these points where we get back on the path of why we're here, and it's all through direct experience. I'm always like, hey, no one can teach this stuff. You can guide people, you can give people, tips and stuff like that. But anytime anybody says, oh, I can get you here, I usually call bullshit. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but this is all of us. We all have this ability. All of us, we're the same beautiful stardust. And we all have the
Mhm.
ability to get on a path that is aligned with purpose, and that where we live these lives honoring these human suits, these amazing carbon machines, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I always think about the human body and all the different, like, it's so amazing, right? And
Mhm.
when you have that respect and that honoring of your body, you're not going to shovel junk into your body. You're not going to smoke cigarettes, do bumps of coke off a toilet. You're going
Mhm.
to honor that body, and you're
Mhm.
going to treat it like the divine miracle that it is. And I
Mhm.
tell you, and then you start treating the world around you in the same way, that everything is divine energy, everything is consciousness. And all of a sudden, like, goodbye competition, goodbye, resentment, and all these things, these conflicting energies that we put out and take in, it all dissipates. And it all
Mhm.
kind of comes down to this mindful practice of presence, of, as you said, an open heart,
Yes.
and that awareness of, like, oh wow, like, everything is me, I am everything. And you stop in your tracks, and
Mhm.
you honor just being.
Would you say that everyone's purpose, truly, when you really funnel it down, is connection? and awareness of our connection?
Mhm. Well, this is what I say. And of course, everybody's open to their own thing, their own saying, their own interpretation. But what I say, I believe that everybody's purpose is to remember who they are and live that truth in the present moment.
Mhm.
Practice living that truth in the present moment. And the reason I add that practice is because that brings in humility and that brings in compassion for ourselves, that we are just a human being and that it is all a practice. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to fall into ego. We're going to have our moments where we're stomping our feet and all the things that we do as we're learning, right?
Mhm.
But I think in like framing everything as a practice is so important because it does bring in humility and compassion and
Mhm.
understanding that it's a never ending process. It's a never ending practice. There's no prime time or anything. Everything is a practice. And when we have that approach, it softens our need to perform, our need to be perfect, our need to, do all the things that we want to do.
Please.
Right?
I think and maybe just to kind of tie this off with a little bow, I think what people are really longing to feel is relief.
Yeah.
And you can do that by tapping into yourself. When you realize in this moment, you really do have everything you need right now. That's a really tough one for people because they're like, well, wait, I need, $1 million. In this moment, when you actually practice mindfulness, when you actually tap into the present moment, you realize how safe and how perfect, how quiet and how beautiful it is. And then you realize all your needs are met. And that is what provides you relief. And that's my greatest hope for people because I think that they tend to be trapped in the past or the future or both and
Yeah.
not really connected to what's happening right now. And I think that that's what you're helping people achieve. And in my opinion, I think being mindful is happiness. That's what happiness actually feels like. People think it's like when you achieve something or when you make a ton of money or you have this house. It's really just being tapped into this present moment right now
Mhm.
and realizing how beautiful it is and trying to stay in that as much as possible because that's what leads you to really being your true self. And that may rock your world. That may, like it rocked yours. You went and changed your life completely. You left, the corporate world behind and followed this path. And maybe that's what people need to do and to think about and to discover in themselves. So I'm
Mhm.
really, really glad that you're out there doing this, that you did have this awakening. I'm grateful for your sister. I'm so sad for your parents passing,
Thank you.
but it also facilitated some great lessons for you that, are helping other people. So before we end, tell people how they can get a hold of you. Is it through your Instagram, the Casa de Flujo? How do they get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Well, oddly enough, my main platform is LinkedIn, which is my kids think I'm the biggest dork in the world, but that's where I do a lot of my writing. I write about consciousness and plant medicine and for lack of better terms, spiritual things. I don't use that term too often. But LinkedIn is a good one. Guy Borgford. Also, I'm Guy Borgford on Instagram, Casa de Flujo on Instagram. I'm a pretty open book.
Mhm.
I'll talk to anybody really, as long as they aren't super creepy or weird. Which in this space you do get that, but I love the little bow that you put on that as you framed it. That was super beautiful, and yeah, I knew when we first connected that we were aligned on so many different things, and it's just been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
You too. That LinkedIn is how we connected.
That's right.
You sent me like, friend request. I guess I don't know what they call it on LinkedIn. Connection request. I just looked at your profile and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And whenever anyone really captures my interest, that's when I want to have one of these conversations with
Uh,
them. And you really are fascinating. And I am, you know, really impressed with your spiritual journey and how you're helping people. And I hope people have, learned something today, that we don't have to have this stigma on plant-based medicines. We don't have to, have this stereotype in our minds. We can look at them with fresh eyes. And you're seeing this more and more in the psychological community, the use of microdosing with mushrooms, with ketamine therapy, things like that as pathways. And I think that's what people need. They need options. We don't have to necessarily follow the pharmaceutical route. We don't have to follow, what's prescribed to us by society. We can really explore these things. And that's the point of this podcast as well. So
mm,
thank you so much, Guy. And I know
mm.
we're going to have more conversations in the future.
I
This is
sure
just
hope
scratching
so.
the surface.
I sure hope so. What a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me on.
Yes,
Honored and
thank you.
humbled and grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime, you just have this light and this energy around you. And I'm just better off having sat and had this conversation with you.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry again.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Oh,
I
thank you
mean,
so much.
good tears, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for tuning into the ANEW Insight podcast. We look forward to our next exciting interview. And we really hope you join us next time. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Insight podcast. Please remember, the contents shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Insight podcast tab. And follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.